the countdown, and I'm good.
So, all right. Well, hey, Dwight, we're live. We're live, and we're hanging out here in on YouTube and Facebook, which is brand new for the show. So I'm excited to welcome you as the first guest on the video version of the Wexpeel podcast. As always, it will also be broadcast on Spotify, Apple, all the places that you find your favorite podcasts and shows. You can go and check them all out. But Dwight Upshaw, is my guest today from Proven Fit. Welcome to the show. And man, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, I'm excited. We finally got this locked into a time. Able to kind of like go through this with get this up there and kind of be your first experiment in the live streaming of the podcast. So that'll be good.
Yeah, it'll be good. It'll be fun. Now we've been talking back and forth for a few months now. I know things have been crazy between semifinal, qualifying, through quarterfinals, and how long we've been talking, trying to get this thing in the works. But glad that you're finally
I think
here.
it's been at least a couple
So tell
months. Yeah.
everybody what kind of. It's been a couple months, yeah. So
Yeah.
tell everybody your role with Proven and kind of what you're doing there, and then we'll kind of get into all the stuff that's going on with you guys up there.
Perfect. Yeah. So my role with Proven is I'm one of the lead athlete coaches here. I work hand in hand with Shane and the other coaches. So, I first started actually with Nick Johnston, who's now the CEO. We were the first two coaches that came on in order to help coach with the athlete camp over here and then develop those programs. Originally, it was Nick working on the compete side, me working on the affiliate side. So we both were kind of like branching out. Nick expanded on what Tia and Shane were already doing on that side, and then I created the affiliate programming in order to get that to wide reach. And then we've kind of reshuffled some things, and Shane has taken back over compete programming as Nick's taken on the CEO role. We've added on Will Kearney, who now does our masters and our Proven 60, and Batu, who's now helping expand our programming into Latin America. So that's been kind of like a really good expansion. So we've kind of developed the team a little bit more. So in-house here, we do actually have Batu, who travels back and forth, but he's been here a lot this past year. And then I've been the one that's been full-time here pretty much like the whole year, working with the athletes, and then working for developing videos, content, and everything on that side for our affiliate growth. And so I've been kind of like the one that's been here with Shane, hand in hand. And then we have some other coaches that are working on like the other behind the scenes stuff, and they come in and out and travel a little bit more than I do.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, and that's a lot. You guys are doing a ton of stuff over there. So, I mean, I'm assuming that takes up pretty much 99%. It's just all the different hats that you got to put on to do those.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely takes a lot of time. Like I would say that, trying to expand the affiliate programming and get that to a wider reach, and then make sure that the content is, basically at the top level of trying to be, above and beyond of what other people can kind of put out there is really like our goal. And trying to, tackle that has been kind of my baby along the way. So it definitely does take up a lot of time there. And then wearing the other hats and constantly talking about what the athletes are doing on a day-to-day basis kind of just leaves no real room for much else. But we're definitely in it and passionate about it.
Awesome. So are you over all the athletes team individual, or you have specific ones that you're kind of that you coach and
So
then just
I
kind of
would say that
oversee the rest?
yeah. So from time to time, it depends kind of like on the phase of the year, how individualized the programming becomes, and where we kind of have more of our tailored focus. I would say throughout the years, we've had some more individualized time periods where it's been like, okay, Nick, you're working with these two athletes, Dwight, you're working with these two athletes. However, it's not necessarily just like that. It's more just we're communicating specifically with those athletes. But Shane, Nick, and I, had been talking as a group cohesively in terms of the overall structure of what the kind of training outline should be, creating like a template, and then mapping out individualized approaches to that with that template. Whereas Shane kind of creates like an overview in terms of like where things are, creates like the framework, and then we'll kind of move into the pieces of it and talk specifically with the athletes and have a better eye on them. So by doing that and segmenting it out, so with certain with branching out and being focused on certain athletes, we're able to like really kind of create an eye for them and be like, okay, this is what I need. So I don't have to like be looking everywhere all the time in order to really kind of hone in. I would say in like the off season, during this off season, I'd had kind of a big part in developing a little bit more of some of the off season structure and getting, Sydney ready for Wadapalooza, developing like the off season programming through there. Will had a little bit more, in this off season of trying to do his own thing coming back from some injury stuff. So, he would be doing his own thing, but then we'd be talking back and forth about specific structure of how to get back to where he wanted to
Okay.
be, and kind of having that in. And then, my job is to tie Shane into that and talk about, okay, what's the approach and like what are the type of strength cycles we should be going after. And then when Shane kind of comes in through, so like with the game cycle, he has, a wide or, a big breadth of experience there and can kind of create the structure of like, okay, this is what we need to hit. These are the areas of concern, and then he can do it and kind of overview what I'm putting in there and then create a better structure off of that. And like we kind of talk back and forth, and it's a lot more, I would say, cohesive than like I'm doing something and then he's doing something, and all of a sudden it kind of looks like it's like jumbled athletes into a gym. It's more kind of a little bit of a unit with specific focus points.
Gotcha. So, with all these moving parts, obviously you've got a lot of different personalities and things like that. So,
Yeah.
who all, just for those who are wondering, because you threw out a lot of
Yeah.
names there, who all are you guys working with now currently? You got obviously a whole list of athletes that are going to the games. So, who are you working with right now, and then who else is on the roster that people may not know?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to miss anybody on that one. I would say specifically that have been in-house in Nashville over like the last year that we've worked more directly with. I would say, I mean, from the get-go, a lot of this was built around Brooke because Tia and Brooke were really good training partners, developed a really good relationship there. And that was kind of where it started. And then Brooke had a really close relationship with Will Morad, and then so he kind of jumped on
Okay.
when Brooke was here. He actually helped her train for the games in 2020 as she was doing that final lead up.
Okay.
So that kind of like was where that stemmed because I got hired on in December of 2020, started January of 2021. And so it kind of started after that year of
Okay.
Brooke trying to look and move to Nashville and then come on. And then Will started with Street and Alec at the time, who all kind of like been in the same spot. And they were just like a good friends that all trained together. And so it just kind of worked out that way that
Yeah.
that's how it started. And so since then, we've had Will and Brooke the whole time in camp. And that same year, Sydney kind of happened into making it to a semifinal. She wasn't even planning on doing quarterfinals, and Brooke kind of talked her into it. And then she ended up making semifinals. And then it was like, okay, well, let's now specifically train for CrossFit versus just doing classes, where
Sure.
she was doing classes at Trivium. And so then she decided to start training. And that was when we kind of took her on of like, okay, this is a really cool project to get her to the games. And we actually did say, which is pretty nice, that it was like, okay, this is going to be, probably about a 2-year project of making sure that you get there. Because we're definitely know that like we can't really get there in a year. We're probably going to need another year on top of that. And so she trained full time going into last year, made huge strides. Even though like placement wise at Granite Games versus the year before at West Coast, it didn't like necessarily show placement wise, but we saw those strides in the gym and we saw them in the workouts that we saw, and so we knew that she was on the cusp of that. So we decided, okay, like she needs another big competition under her belt going in, and went to Wadapalooza, did that. That helped her kind of get a little more experience. And then fast forward, she's made the games this year. So she came in and she was training alongside with also Nicole Burke, who is here. And she's moved here from
Yep.
Mississippi this last year. So she was in this whole last year, Luis Oscar Mora. Not necessarily widely known, but pretty well known in Mexico. Really strong
Oh yeah.
athlete. Honestly, I think I think he should have made the games. There's always those events that kind of get away from you, but he's one of those guys that I think is more than talented to make it and make an impact there. So, he was one of those athletes that was in camp there here, and then we had Sasha with Batu as her coach here, who was in this like last cycle through. And then we also do have two teens that have made the games. We had a third teen competing who was literally just on the outside looking in. So Caden Poulin was the one that was on the looking from the outside in. And we have RJ Mester, who won the 14-15 age group last year.
Okay.
And it's now, he literally turns 16 July 12th. He told me he thinks that's Shane's birthday too.
Wow.
I got to check on that one because he was like, I think I share a birthday with Shane. So RJ, we're looking to have him, make his way up to the top of the podium and hopefully even as like the youngest athlete in the division. And then we also have Riley Beebe, who, was actually thankful enough that Olivia Kersetter, who is one of our remote athletes who now has been coming in training kind of in these little camps. So she was just out for a week and a half. Now she's going to be coming out for 2 weeks. So she went home for a week, going back out for 2 weeks. But because Olivia made the games as an individual athlete, Riley was in that 11th spot and was able to be moved into the teen division for that.
Cool.
Yeah. So we have those two teen athletes going in, one on the female side, one on the male side for the 16-17. We have Olivia Kersetter, Sydney, Will, Nick Matthew, who's been a remote athlete. And Nick's a really cool story. That guy just was on our compete programming for a long time, trying to like make headway into it. He made it into the Granite Games 2021, missed by 2 points. That was where we first met and kind of like we were helping him along and coaching him during that event. The next year, he missed it by, I think, 4 points, but then was able to make his way in because of a failed drug test. And then, really was able to show. I've always, the big thing with Nick for me was always like, hey, man, like we just need a few home runs. And he's always very consistent. And with only 6 events at a semi, he just, it would just be like that one little thing that would knock him out because he didn't have, the big home run. And it's kind of amazing because then at the games, he won 2 events and threw home runs and was able to show off what he's really able to be capable of, along with the fact that he was very consistent. And so was able to put a really good showing for his first time at the games. So,
well, it was awesome to see him actually. I was gonna say it was awesome to actually see him qualify and get to like actually participate in the qualified experience as opposed to just kind of getting in. It was getting in on the back door.
Yeah, exactly. And
knowing when he left semis, he had it.
And so this year, like I felt less once he did that and then went to Rogue, did well. I think it was kind of just like one of those, you kind of rip the Band-Aid off and open up doors to yourself in terms of like your own belief system. And so feel pretty confident about that guy going forward as well. So we have a good amount. It's good athletes and good people along the board in terms of, who we have representing Proven at the games. On the Masters side, we have Becca Voigt Miller, who's also competing again this year. And so that'll be awesome. I mean, I think that she's basically just a staple of CrossFit in the games.
Absolutely.
And so
she's been there all the time.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of one of those ones where you almost forget about because she's always there. So she's just great and very consistent. And so we've been able to kind of pull in and have a good amount of athletes representing, and we're excited for them all, and to kind of see what we can do there at the games, and experience it this year.
Yeah, and you didn't miss anybody except this giant contingent right in the middle of team.
Yeah, well,
that you have that's on a rampage right now.
That goes unsaid. Those guys are, I mean, that's been a huge project in the works with Nick and Nick's wife, Taylor Williamson and Andrea Nisler, who have been, at the top of the game, as team athletes for, I can't even, I mean, they've been there doing team events for long periods of time. So if you're thinking about like top 2 team female athletes, I I don't think you find a better pair in the sport
No,
of
I mean,
CrossFit. Yeah.
they're listed right there, I mean, right
Yeah.
behind Rich with his record with
Yeah.
teams.
Yeah. So like
Obviously, they were
Andrea and Taylor are just, second to none there. And then bringing on Tim Paulson, who's been just like a staple of the games as well, as an individual athlete. Really good guy, owns an affiliate, runs that, has kids. Like the guy's one of those guys that just wakes up and does dad duty, and still is able to get it done on a daily basis. And then Tola's been in house. So Tola and Taylor are in house every single day. And Tola is just, one of those guys that just he's cerebral in his own thought about like how like he trains himself, and he's really good and methodical about all of the stuff
mhm.
that he puts in, which is why he's so strong and put together. And I've really liked talking to him about training and his philosophy and what he's done the last couple of years, because I come from an endurance background, and that's been something that like his dad actually is, as like an elite
Okay.
marathoner, but he actually is just this
Oh,
strong,
wow.
one of the strongest athletes to ever compete, basically, at the CrossFit Games. And he's had to kind of work his way up to being a better endurance athlete and putting in the time. And it's been actually amazing, because I remember watching him at West Coast, really struggle with that ruck run. And then I didn't expect to see the strides that he'd made when he came into our camp, of how actually good of an aerobic athlete he's become. And that's been something that's been really kind of cool to see on that side, where he's been able to maintain his strength as well as build that aerobic engine and put it up as a big focus point. And you can kind of tell that that's what he takes into all of his training. So yeah, like I said, I think we have a good array of athletes and different backgrounds, and I'm excited to see the proven team kind of put on a show there on the team side.
Yeah. Now, so are you guys going into the games as like I know they've had some talk about how they name teams and things like that. Are you guys going in, like, can you go in as team proven, or do they have to go in as like CrossFit East Nashville, or how is that
So it's
how is that going to look when they're there?
I don't know if you saw like the way that we're able to do it this year. So it's still, because the affiliation is CrossFit East Nashville.
Uh-huh.
You'll see like CrossFit Invictus Black, CrossFit Invictus Blue.
Okay.
So we're CrossFit East Nashville proven.
Gotcha.
So that leaves it open that if there was like another team that we decided to, it would be like CrossFit East Nashville proven black, CrossFit East Nashville proven blue, or something like that. And
Gotcha.
that would be how they name the teams, in order for us to still be able to keep the proven name, and go up
Okay.
there, and kind of get that as, basically that was the difference that they did this year versus last year, where it had to be just the affiliate
Okay. Gotcha. And
name. Yeah.
so you guys are doing a lot of stuff obviously with the games, and it was just announced this week that you guys are actually partnering with the games. So how much can and I know it's new, and I don't know how much you can share with it, as far as
Oh,
what's going
so
on
I
with
mean,
that, but kind of give a little insight.
yeah, I think to some extent it sounds bigger than it is. It is something that we're actually very excited for, because it's something that CrossFit Games haven't done before, which is do an official like partnering of programming during the game. So like we're going to be kind of highlighting our programming tracks and leading workouts that are specifically like the way that we'd go through proven programming. And I really am excited about that, especially on the affiliate side, because that's one of the things that I feel like CrossFit's done a really good job of at the games, where they created that CrossFit affiliate like gym style, and then be able to have
Yeah.
us kind of create, okay, hey, like here's what we do in terms of proven affiliate, and then be able to kind of highlight the style and approach that we take on a daily basis, and how we coach a class, and take an entire gym running through it in terms of 30 to 40 people at a
Okay.
time, and really kind of put our stamp on how we do that, as well as being able to highlight proven 60, our masters compete. So we'll kind of rotate through a few workouts and be able to put that on for the community there. And so we're doing that as kind of more of a partnership, of where they shown that, and in terms of talking through bringing in different ideas to what they put up on the main site in terms of programming ideas. So it's more that I think that CrossFit's building an open mind and bringing in some other ideas with that. So, for us, we get a booth there. We're going to talk more about our programming philosophy. We're going to be putting on more community events while we're at the games, and that's kind of like the partnership and sponsorship that we're doing for the games.
Very cool. And
Yeah.
so you said you'll have a booth and you'll actually be leading workouts. So is that kind of like the community events that they do out on like North Park and
Yeah,
like
we'll be
that type
doing
of
a lot
thing,
of
or is
that
it
stuff. Well, we're gonna do some of those, and then
okay?
in the affiliate gym, we'll be also running certain workouts as
Oh,
well.
very cool.
So like there's some inside like the
Yeah,
tent inside, the main area.
gotcha. And you had talked about the affiliate program. So kind of what are some things that you guys are doing to, really get it out there to the public and get it out to affiliates, and like what are some things they can do to kind of reach out to you and get involved with the affiliate program?
Yeah, so I mean, we've been trying to do, a big kind of marketing push like through all social platforms. Like we put it out there on YouTube. I have some other ideas for this off season about putting out a little bit more content of like specific things that we really want to see from our affiliates in terms of like what are the most important aspects of it. But in terms of like the way that I think we've grown it so far, and I believe this without a doubt that the best way that you can grow anything, and I felt like this when I was running the CrossFit, CrossFit Sanitas back in the day, was word of mouth kills everything in terms of marketing. And if you can make what you're trying to do and you put your heart and your soul into the creation of whatever you're doing and really make sure that it's able to enhance the affiliate owner's experience and their ability to create a better community, which will in turn create a better gym culture, get more people in your gym, make it more profitable, make it run smoother, make people happier, make the athletes actually see results on a daily basis that are tangible. That's really what I'm trying to do in terms of the affiliate programming. And so a lot of that is keeping my eyes and ears open and listening and talking to affiliate owners that have concerns or that have ideas or that give me feedback. And so I actually do talk to a lot of the affiliate owners on a day-to-day basis, either through our
Okay.
Facebook group. Honestly, like I respond to messages all the time if someone were to reach out and ask about our program. If they reach out and email us, for a long time, Tia was our customer support, and she'd be on that and just like knocking it over and be like, hey Dwight, this is a question about affiliate, like get that going. So like really like we're on top of all those messages of okay, like what are people actually looking for. And so what I try to do is I try to create the workouts based off of what our style is here at Proven, make them really fun and exciting and develop an approach that's progressive that allows it to be progressive but varied is kind of like more my approach that I would say. And our approach at Proven, where we still love and will fall in line, which is where I think we fall in line with CrossFit in terms of constantly varied functional movement performed at high intensity. GPP
Yep.
style, making sure that people feel really good, can carry, hinge, squat, push, pull, gymnastics, fun skill work. I don't ever think that we should get rid of any skill work because people can't do it. We can teach people how to do it or do something that's similar to it that's going to make them challenge themselves. And so that's my thing is like let's create an area inside the gym that's really exciting, and then have gym owners talk to each other and be like, okay, well, what's working for you, and how are you getting more members in your gym, and how are you staying profitable? And they're like, well, we're using Proven. I can spend more time talking to coaches about what we're supposed to be doing on an everyday basis, and they're just managing the programming, and that programming is actually creating a culture where I have to coach, versus turning my brain off and having
Gotcha.
such a simple
Yeah.
program. Like I want to have things that create this approach where you're having to think about, okay, what's the stimulus here? What's the primary objective? Like, what are we trying to do with this? And how are we trying to develop our athletes? And then that makes the coaches want to talk about it, and that makes the athletes talk about it afterwards. And all of a sudden, you have people talking, and that's really, I think, the spread that we're trying to do with our affiliate, as well as I think where this podcast came in, which is talking about partnering with organizations that we really kind of align with and see have that
Yeah.
similar approach and similar ideology, which is the Girls Gone RX, which is one of those things as partnering up out there in terms of trying to uh, really branch out, we've also partnered up in the past with Operation Underground Railroad, which
Oh
is
yeah.
another organization as well that we really have tried to highlight. And so those are things where we make specific partnerships that we think have a good cause and also have a wide reach and have the same kind of branding and ideology that we do.
Yeah. So I want to talk about both those, but before I
Yeah.
get there, I do want to ask a question.
Yeah.
You said Tia was your customer service person. Did they know they were talking to Tia when they were
No,
when she
no,
was doing the
actually, it was
customer service?
awesome.
Or
I kind of like to throw that out there every once in a while, because there was a time
yeah,
period there where we just had like a little bit of a transition time. Tia wasn't competing; she was pregnant, so she had a little more
sure.
time on her hands. She also has always been kind of hands on, and likes to know what's going on, even when she's just working out every day in the gym. And so she's always been really tied in, and it was kind of like fun to like be able to have her see kind of what we're doing on the backside. And so she did manage that for a little bit there, and it was kind of funny because it was just like customer service, but every once in a while I throw it out there. I was like, oh, actually, you're talking to Tia, so if you are nice, that would probably be a good idea.
Wait, did people get
Well,
a little
you know
chippy
how
and
people
then
are with like if things aren't going right or something
of
doesn't
course.
come in a timely manner, or they a missed email or something like that. And
Yeah.
most of the time, I would say like I'm dealing with affiliate owners, and so they kind of get it.
Yeah.
But they're also strapped for time and probably stressed,
Sure.
so that kind of goes into it as well.
That's funny. Just have her call somebody up and be like, "Oh yeah, well by the way, I'm your
Yeah,
customer service agent."
yeah,
Um, so we did, you alluded to some of the programs you're working with. I know both of those very well. Actually, OUR, I got to interview at Wadapalooza.
yeah. Awesome.
Caleb,
Yeah, Caleb's an
just
awesome.
great guy.
Yeah, been
Oh man,
pushing it
yeah,
always, and like he seems like he's always trying to just stay on top of the next thing and trying to really get his message out there.
yeah. And then on the show here, we had Lindsay
Yep.
come on the show from Girls Gone RX. So how did that partnership kind of come about, and what is your role with them as far as what you're doing with them?
Yeah, so kind of cool thing. I mean, I would say so. I ran CrossFit Sanitas um, for 6 years. That was actually Eric Rose's gym,
Okay, yeah,
out there in Colorado, out near Boulder. And so it was like 6+ years, maybe closer to 7. I'm kind of like lose track of time here. But through that, I developed a lot of relationships, and I competed in kind of like the local CrossFit comp circuit, and would go to events, talk to a bunch of people. I ran a gym, other people ran a gym. Lindsay ran a gym, CrossFit Eminence down the way, um, and actually
okay,
she hosted at when I was doing more competitions. She hosted my favorite CrossFit competition. I mean, it's tied in there with Pat Burke's competition. There's like Turkey Challenge, and there was Winter Wad Fest. And for me, like Winter
okay,
Wad Fest was really fun because I liked. I didn't necessarily like to swim, but I was an old triathlete, so I was good enough of a swimmer that I beat everybody except for the D1 swimmers that would pass that would come out.
yeah.
And so it was cool because she'd do a 2-day comp where there'd be one day in the gym and then one day in the pool.
Oh, cool.
And that was like something that you just didn't see that much. And so they were able to like, get that going. And I remember that being like a really well run and really fun competition. And so she ran that gym, sold the gym as she was like, she started Girls Gone RX before she sold the gym. And then Girls Gone RX started taking off and getting big enough that she basically sold the gym, went full into that, and really just kind of like leaned into doing that. And I'd seen Girls Gone RX growing, even as I was in Colorado. Like we'd have a lot of teams that would want to go down there, a lot of women in the area that would get behind the cause and really kind of show up for that. And it was always sold out. And I've only seen it grow and develop and get bigger and bigger. And the message that she really puts out there is, we're competing for a cure and a cause, but we're also getting a huge amount of women into being really physically active and getting into the community and going out, and you see like the fun and excitement that you have from these team and these partner competitions. And for me, that's like what CrossFit is, and that's what the CrossFit community is all about. And so to be able to raise awareness and to also donate to competing for a cure for breast cancer, where we've also been hit with, Cass, Will's wife. That can like hit
Yeah.
close to home with that. It's just so scary. And, my wife, Julia, also actually like holds, her almost every woman in her family's had breast cancer. And so it's one of
Gotcha.
those things that you see as being like, and it's just such a widespread thing that everybody, you could talk to anybody and they have someone in their family that's been affected. Um, and
Yeah.
so, I really kind of saw that, and Lindsay reached out to me because we randomly like talked through Facebook. Like I saw she was doing something, I said something. She goes, "What's your role of Proven? Would you guys be interested?" And I'd been seeing it kind of like growing. I was like, well, it kind of seems like a no-brainer for our affiliate kind of programming and our vision as Proven to expand and kind of hit a wider reach, to kind of partner with something that we knew was well run, well done, and for a good cause. And so that's kind of like where I got tied in, and then basically started talking to Shane and Nick about programming for the events that they were doing this year, and creating some of the video content and being able to kind of like help um, put that out to more gyms across the way, and then out to more events. So there's been an expansion of events, and honestly, that was the one thing I didn't know I was kind of buying into, which was programming for roughly about, I think, 30 different workouts, which was
Yeah.
something that
And
was huge.
and that's funny. That's kind of the way that I got involved with her as well.
Yeah,
Is there's a local gym here that I actually used to be the head coach of called CrossFit Zoo, and they host the Girls Gone RX competition here in Florida,
yeah,
in the Central Florida area. And when we got involved with them, I just kind of talking back and forth with the owners, and they had some issues with some scorecards. So I was like, well, hey, let me make some scorecards for you, and I'll send them in.
yeah,
And then they sent them to Lindsay, and then Lindsay contacted me, and she's like, "Oh, well, here's more. Let's work together, and you do scorecards, and we'll kind of work back and forth." And breast cancer, of course, is also near to our family as
yeah,
well. My wife just she was diagnosed with the BRCA2 gene,
yeah, yeah.
which is kind of similar to what you're saying. Is that
With my
all
my
the
wife,
women on her?
yeah, Sh I think she,
Yeah,
I think she got tested for it. She has, I forgot exactly what the gene. There's like two. It's genes that basically say like you have a high chance of having it, and it was
yeah,
basically saying that she has about a 60% chance of having it, and
yeah.
so that's probably the
Well,
same.
this was, with my wife. She found out because she did one of those DNA tests,
Yep.
and the DNA test linked her to somebody on her father's side. She
Oh
has
wow.
no,
Okay. Was it
yeah,
like
she has no contact
ancestry.com
with
or
her father.
something?
Yeah, I think it was 23andMe,
Oh yeah, basically the
and
two
it
main
linked
ones.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it linked her to somebody on her father's side, and she has, like, no contact with that side of the family at all. Her mom had her when she was very young, kind of, we don't know anything about that side of the family, and somebody from that side reached out to her because it connected them via this, 23andMe, and she said, "Hey, you don't know us, obviously, this is the other side of your family, of your father's side, but
Yeah.
basically all of his sisters have either fought or died from breast cancer. You need to get tested. You need to, look for
Yeah.
that." So she did the test. She got the BRCA2 diagnosis, and so proactively she went
Yeah.
ahead and did just last year, full double mastectomy and reconstruction. She actually has another procedure coming up on, not not today, but a week from today,
Yeah.
where just kind of fixing some things from the original
I
surgery.
mean,
But
those
yeah,
those aren't all easy
it's
surgeries, so
no, no. Thankfully, we were able to do it preemptively, and
yeah.
kind of do all the surgeries and not have to deal with the cancer side of it. So hoping that we don't
Yeah.
see cancer in our family, but it's a long journey for sure. So it's something that was near and dear to us as well.
Yeah, and we're
Partnering up
we're
with them
we're
and
actually
saying,
we've
"Hey,
talked
let's go."
about that as well. Same kind of deal. We've talked about it. But right now it's Julia's breastfeeding, which apparently actually
Yeah.
helps fight against it too.
Yes.
So that's kind of good. It kind of keeps her almost like at bay for a little bit, but then we have to kind of make a decision after our 4-month old is past the age of breastfeeding, and
Sure.
Julia's like in that spot. and the debate of, do you have a third kid? Like, so it's just kind
Of
of like
course, yeah,
debating when you do that, is kind of always the case. So, yeah, I mean, I think that, like, I think it's smart. I think what you guys are doing, I mean, I think that able to not have to deal with the cancer is probably the best
yeah,
approach, versus having to do it after the fact, and then you're just hoping that you got everything. So
yeah,
yeah,
and
it's
we
definitely
were in the same boat.
yeah,
We were in the same boat with that. We had just had our last kid. We have 4.
yeah,
We have 4 children.
yeah,
So we'd had our last child. We're like, "Yeah, we don't no more of this.
yeah,
We're done." And, so once he was done breastfeeding and, he was good and ready, and she had recovered, from everything, that goes along with that. She did actually a hysterectomy first. That was
yeah,
the first thing she did because of, all sorts of other health issues that she had. But and then the second course of action was of course the double mastectomy. So offline, if you need any questions or
yeah, for
answers,
sure.
we're here for you
I'll definitely
to
hit
walk
you
you
up.
through that at all for sure.
Yeah.
But
Well, thank you.
but yeah, so back to Girls
Yeah.
Gone RX. You start programming with them. You did. I know you did Winter Solstice was I think possibly the first thing that you guys did, and
Yeah.
then branched out into the other events. So,
Yeah.
kind
I
of
mean, it
how
kind
did
of happened all at once.
okay,
So it was like we kind of did all those at the same time, and just had to like knock them out before the season. It was like, getting it up and trying to get that going and make sure. I've had to just make, some adjustments here and there after, hearing feedback, which is always the case. It's from gym to gym, you have to adjust programming, based on what your
yeah.
space, size, availability of movements are and stuff like that. But yeah, so being able to get that going for them and be able to partner up and kind of hear how it's going has been really kind of cool to see.
Yeah. And the ladies that got involved, that was, Brooke,
Yeah.
Sydney, and Nicole?
Yeah.
Did the videos
Yeah.
and
It
stuff?
was super, it
How
was
did
super
they
nice. I basically was, kind of told them, I was like, hey, it would be really cool to have you guys in the videos, for all those that are doing these competitions. Would you be able to give me a few hours in the morning? Like, we'll run through these movements. And I almost was mad at myself for programming 75 different movements, as you kind of get
Yeah,
into it. Right. But it was one of those fun things where it was just kind of like, okay, let's, have Sid, you do these ones, Brooke, you do these ones. Okay, we're doing, partner ones. Nicole come in, and they were good enough. We used it as an extended warm up for their day,
nice.
and we're able to,
Yeah.
kind of get them involved, which was really cool, and they were happy to do it. So that was good.
And it was really cool because they actually opened the lifting one up to
Oh, sorry,
juniors
and
as well. So my
Jordan
daughter
Mall. I forgot to
Oh,
mention the athletes, Jordan Malm, and Saxon, Panchik, of the athletes that were in. It's funny, like, not even to mention them in there, but Jordan Malm was one of those ones that did the demos for, our Girls Gone RX as well during that day. So that was really good, like,
okay.
lead up to the semifinals.
Yeah, I got to see a lot of the Winter Solstice ones because my daughter actually competed in that as well. She's 10, and, she got to compete in the Winter Solstice and actually finished 2nd in the juniors division. So she
Yeah,
had a great time, so we got to see a lot of those videos. So that's why those 3, definitely stuck out to me, because I saw them, the most.
yeah.
But, so is that something you're gonna continue with them going forward and, kind of still, working all that stuff out?
Yeah, yeah. I think we'll keep trying to, make it better. Is really the idea. Like, I think first time out, I didn't really kind of have, like, I feel like we did a really good job of being able to get it out there and get some good workouts for them and kind of understand what they were looking for. What I think, though, always, like, once you first working with an organization of kind of what you're trying to do, it was really good to see, um, basically, what they needed a little bit more of, and that's something that I think that, like, we can tackle first and like, in the forefront, rather than necessarily as a response, for the second round going into this.
Gotcha.
And that's basically, like, it's with everything you kind of do, like, a little bit of a learning curve of, like, what's needed in terms of, the organization and the events, and then how can we do it better. And that's basically what I've kind of, like, have written down some notes of, like, okay, how can we make this a little bit more streamlined, but even better for all parties involved.
Of course, and the event goes well, goes great, wherever I've seen it, pop up, I kind
Yeah.
of follow along on Instagram, some of the other events, and, wasn't able to go to the one, this year because unfortunately it was actually scheduled, here locally, it was scheduled the same weekend as semis. So,
Yeah.
they but, again, learning curve, they were like, "Yeah, we didn't know when we scheduled the date or we would have, moved it a week or 2
It's super hard. Yeah. Yeah.
to make it
Yeah.
work."
I will say dates are really hard to line up with anything. So
Yeah. So, we didn't see each other at all in
yeah,
in Orlando, and we were both there. Tried to get something on site, but man, it was crazy down there, with everything that was
it was
going
a
on.
back and forth weekend for
And
sure.
obviously,
Yeah.
yeah. And so just kind of I know she had the foot injury, or I
Yeah.
guess she
I
posted on
mean,
social
both
media that
both Brooke
she
and Saxon.
completely tore. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like at that event, it was one of those things that like you don't know 100% kind of like the extent of an injury. However, and it was weird because she made comments that it was literally just in like kind of like the lead up when we were doing kind of like our final run through events, like my foot's like a little sore, and I was like, okay, let's not just do any
Sure.
more running, leading up into the event. It's just kind of like, okay, there's been a little bit of soreness. We try to look at things after the fact of like, okay, what could have caused it. Part of us are thinking even just like the amount of practicing ring muscle ups with a ruck and jumping off that,
Mhm.
and box jump overs with a ruck, can possibly be like how many times are you doing that and then going in and testing out the run event and touch and go power snatches and moving through. It's like, okay, like possibly that could have created a little bit of soreness going in there, of practicing that event a little bit more. And so we have no idea what actually was the root cause, but I know that it was a little bit sore. But like Brooke even says it, she's like, I don't even know. Like it was just like a little bit sore. I didn't expect anything. And then she was running in that first event
Yeah.
and she said she felt a pop. So that's when you think full tear. But what's crazy about Brooke is she has pretty high pain tolerance. It feels like, because she did have bruising on her foot. So you're kind of also thinking like tear, but she's like, I'm gonna fight through it. And she was able to still like get I think 12th place or 10th place on that run,
Yeah.
the 800-meter run plus touch and go power snatches. Her snatch leading into that event, like testing it, we were, thinking in the 190, 195 range. She was only able to get to 180 just because, like she said, she didn't feel right. And that makes sense, so like
Yeah.
trying to fight through some of these things, and even with that, I think she tried to push a little harder in Linda, which led to her kind of going a little faster, and that like led to a blow up. So like you kind of go into these things of like, okay, why do you like make certain decisions? And it's like, okay, well, she was trying to fight like and wasn't able to like do everything she knows she was capable of, but still
Yeah.
fought through the weekend and was 6 points out.
I was gonna say,
That's
all
yeah.
that to say, she was not far out. Like, people are like,
No,
"Oh,
she
she's
almost made
off,
her way
she
all back.
missed,"
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
to be that to have that kind of injury and still only be 6 points out from a spot,
Yeah.
is immensely impressive.
Yeah, and like I kind of knew also like that touch and go power snatch run workout. I was like, the only person that's going to beat Sydney here is Brooke,
Yeah,
going into that event. But with Brooke's foot, she wasn't able to like fully like let loose on that one. So it kind of goes to show you like a little bit of some of the stuff that was kind of fought out there. But she's getting a lot better. She's enjoying life. She's back to doing more training, which is good. And she said she's kind of trying to just like live up the fact that she actually has like a full off season and some time to like travel and go to weddings and you know do
yeah,
that type of stuff. So it's good for her.
yeah.
And Saxon, kind of similar injury actually. His he had more foot issue stuff, from running on the track a little bit going into it. So that was more of something that we kind of were a little bit cognizant of going into it. And it was the ruck jump. When he jumped off of it, he felt it pop too. So
Ah, okay.
um,
Yeah,
that was one of those things. And that was just a heartbreaker, because that guy is like a staple of the games, and he was just kind of didn't even with like that. You almost like just expecting him to somehow fight and make his way up, but he's he's making a full recovery back too, and working his way back up and doing everything he can to get um, back in order and back on top.
Yeah, and you guys got a thing with the twins, the
Yeah,
twins
yeah,
over there.
I know, it's crazy. Well, I mean, it's funny because yeah, I mean, Saxon is a twin, and he's married to a twin. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So, well, awesome. So, what are some things you're looking forward to with the games this year? Is there anything that you're like, this is what I want to see, or anything you want to avoid, or like how excited are you guys? Going into the lead up for Madison this year?
I mean, I think we're just really excited. I don't think there's anything I'm necessarily like expecting or worried about in terms of that. I'm just excited that we have a booth at the games. We get to put more of who we are out there, which is exciting to me. I like the community events that we're going to be able to do. I like that we have kind of a wide array of athletes in every division. So we have a teens, we have masters, we have the team who's going to put on a show out there. We have the individual athletes. What's kind of cool about that is that we have one person I forgot to mention because I actually haven't met him yet, but I'm really excited to see how he's going to do, which is Kylon, who is in Mexico, I believe, or Brazil. No, he's
Yeah.
Brazilian. He's
Okay.
Brazilian, and he's working with Batu, and he's a rookie at the games. We have Sid, who's a rookie at the games, which is like really exciting to be able to have that. We have Olivia, who's a rookie. So we have like a lot of these athletes that are just breaking through and kind of building up, as well as the teens athletes that we haven't worked with before that we're now working on. So there's a lot of exciting things for me where there's athletes that I haven't seen compete on that stage
Yeah.
from a coaching standpoint that have developed and been able to make their way up to the games that kind of get to make their mark their first year at the games with that. And also having Will Morad, who's just like keeps even as he's aging, he's been in the game for so long. He's turning 34 and he's still able to keep knocking on the door and looking better than ever. Is kind of something that
Yeah.
I'm really excited for. And like we already talked about with Nick Matthew, the expectation is for him to only do better in his second year there. So for me, like I think with the sky's the limit with the team. I think we all expect them to do their thing and bring home the gold, and then we have a bunch of athletes making their first appearance. We have Nick making his second appearance. We have Will making, I think it's his fifth appearance at the games, right?
Yeah. He's been there. He's been there quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's just a lot of different storylines that I'm really excited about, and like I'm more excited than anything to just see them all do well.
How do you guys go into a weekend like that or a week like that managing so many people? Is it kind of like a divide and conquer when you're on site approach?
A
Or
little
is it
bit,
like, hey,
yeah.
hey, you're gonna take these two, I'm gonna take these two, and we're gonna, kind of
It's
move
it's
it
it's
around?
more like that, but it kind of depends. So like I'm gonna it because one thing is that you do get a coaching band, and you need a coaching band to just get in there. And so
Yeah.
it's kind of deciding what athlete has whose coaching band. I've always been with Sid and Will for the most part. So like it's been like I've either been with Will or I've been with Sid at events, or Brooke. I was with her for last games, and then Will was able to give
Mhm.
his to his actual massage therapist so that he'd get worked on as he was through there, which was like nice as that
Yeah.
type of thing, and Shane, of course, always has Tia's. And so I worked more directly with Brooke last year. Shane worked more directly with Tia, but like we still, and then Will likes to really do his own thing, stay in his brain. And then he comes over and he chats with, Shane and I about just like little points of like what he kind of wants to do. Cause he's been such, into the game so long. He really like has kind of like his own, methodology of like, okay, this is what I want to do to warm up. What else do you think
Mhm.
like I should be hitting? And what do you think my strategy should be going into this? It's not like a, methodical thing of like walking him through it necessarily, where I would say some of
Yeah.
our other athletes like that. And so with the way that we're going into it this weekend, Nick Johnston is still going to be, even though he's CEO, he's still going to be on the coach side for the team. He's
Yep.
always been like, that's actually where his background was coaching teams at the games. And so that's how he, came in here, and he's, been experienced with that. And he's been, basically like the huge point of contact for the team, and doing a lot of the programming and creating that for the team side. So that's been his thing. So he's going to be really like on top of them, as well as what's going on at the booth, and what we're doing for our community events. So he's got a lot going on there. I'm going to be
Yeah.
working specifically with Riley BB and the teens when that works up, until I have Sid, who's going to be in there. Will is going to, basically have Shane in there kind of as for him, but it's honestly like Shane's helping out Sid and he's helping out Nick, and we're going to be, in there as well. We also have Matt Burke, who's kind of, he works with us. He's not directly a coach with us, but he actually works as more Nick Matthews' individual coach on site, and he's
Okay.
Nicole Burke's husband, and so he's been working in that way and like really tied in with us and is working. So he's going to be in the back working with us, and I mean we've had a tight relationship throughout. So and then Will Kearney is going to be out here as well, and so it's one of those things. It is kind of like you said, like a divide and conquer, and deciding what we want is we just like to have all the coaches back there and be available for what the athletes need. And it
Yeah.
really is just basically asking what the athletes need, um, and trying to be there for that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, man, you guys got a great stable, going into Madison this year. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys up there. Are you going? Is your number one customer service person going to be manning the tent, or is she going to be hiding out?
Actually, I do think I'm almost positive Tia's going to be at the tent at some point or another, but she won't be manning the tent. That just, I think that there'd be more pictures taken than anything else getting done there.
Oh, of course. In fact, I think I told Shane at Wadapalooza, somebody came up to him and was like, "Oh, you have time. The baby will be born. You guys all come and hang out in Madison." I'm like, "No, just take your kid and
Yeah.
stay away. Like bond. Have all that time together.
They're
Have
gonna do a
have
good
some
trip.
fun."
I'm excited for them after the games. I think they're planning
Yeah,
to go back to Australia, have the family meet Willow, and just be able to experience just kind of family life for a little bit there without the hustle and bustle. So
that's
I mean, we have
awesome.
a lot going on in the off season, but a lot of that can be taken care of from afar, and then those that are here kind of work on those sides. So I'm excited
Good
for them to
stuff.
have that family time.
Awesome. Well, man, Dwight, thank you for,
Yeah,
popping on the show and jumping on and talking about everything that's going on. I've enjoyed having you on the show and man, I'm looking forward to seeing you in person
yeah.
actually in Madison.
I know.
We
Yeah, we'll
gotta
definitely
we
have
gotta
to.
actually
We'll really meet up this time for sure.
meet up for sure. I did run into Nick at semis and I've, of course saw him at Wadapalooza and stuff like that. But now, we'll hook up, we'll say hello and
Right on.
all in passing as we're running to our prospective fire that we're trying to put out
Exactly.
while
Always.
while we're there. So awesome, man. Well, thanks so much. And look forward to seeing you up in Madison.
Yeah, definitely. Have a good rest of your day.
Awesome.